Hi, you're welcome back to Halogenous Ideas. In this video, we are going to be creating a currency converter that looks exactly like this. So you're going to have the opportunity to enter the amount. Then after entering the amount, you select the whatever currency that should be the base currency, then the currency that you're converting to, then you will see the equivalent over here. Now, if you take a good look at this, you have the amount over here. You can enter whatever amount that you have, and you cannot enter anything other than a number. So, and the number, you can only enter something like 48.3 something. You cannot enter another point, another period. So it's a very cool project to work on. Then we have the equivalent over here. You cannot edit this particular box. So for example, if you choose the Burundian dollar and you select this one over here, so you can see the way it changes this one over here. You can see the way it changes it. So if I were converting to maybe US dollar, you see it changes the currency to US dollar. Then if I were converting to maybe euro, so if let's say US dollars for example to euros, let me um okay, let me say the amount of US dollars I have is maybe 600, and I want to convert this US dollars to euros. All I have to do is to select maybe Canadian dollar for example. So you see CAD from USD to CAD, it changes. This is the exchange rate, then this is the equivalent. So if I want to change from US dollars to Nigerian naira, um, NGN, you should see NGN over here. Okay, so you can see the NGN. This is the exchange rate. So this is exchange rate by positive confession. But this is what the service provider responsible for the exchange rate, this is what they are giving to us. So the service provider that is going to be sending us the data for the exchange rate, this is their website over here, fixer.io. So if you come to fixer.io, you will see this is the exchange rate service provider we are going to be using. So you just they will give you the exchange rate. So there is it's a premium service they offer, but they allow people to use it for free with some restrictions. So we'll work our way around the restrictions. So well, let's get into it and let's start working on it. So the first thing we are going to be doing, like I do in all my projects, you first of all go to GitHub, you create github.com. Okay, so I want to create a new repo, so new repository. So this repository, we can just say currency converter, currency converter. So just leave all these other ones blank, then you create a repository. So now that you have created a repository, the next thing to do is to create an access token. So you come here, no, this is where you create the access token. Settings, yes. You come to developer settings, personal access tokens classic. Okay, so now you generate a new token. So I can just say currency. Let me just leave it as currency, and this is going to expire in, I'm recording on the 6th of November, so let this just be 7th. No, this should be 11 7. So the most important thing we need this for is just the repo. So you can just add one or two of these other ones and you are good to go. So I'll just as needed, just as needed. So just generate the token. So this is my token over here. I'll copy it to my text editor. So this is one of the functions that we are going to be using for the program, but I just copied it somewhere here because I cannot be typing all these things offhand. So Well, we have the access token now and we have our GitHub repository. So we have the, yes, this is the repository that we are working with. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is to pull this repository to my computer. So there is a way you pull the repository using the access token so that when you are pushing it again, it won't give you much stress. So how do you pull this? You come and you can just use git clone, then you pull it, but when you want to push it back, it will give you issues. So how do you push in such a way that you will not have issues? Git clone, then you now say https dot slash slash, then Chris Halogen, which is the name of the username of the account. Then you come here, you paste the access token, then at github.com slash the username again, then the name of the repo that you want to pull. So the name of the repo is currency converter. Copy this, where art thou? Okay, paste it, then dot git. Okay, so I'll just come to my so my terminal is open. I can pull my repository with peace of mind that when I'm pushing it, it won't give me any issues. So, oh, I don't like this place where he cloned the repo into cd the with ls. Okay, I have all these folders here, but I don't like where he cloned currency converter to. Let me bring it to documents instead. Cd documents. Okay, so let me now. Okay, so I'll delete this one later, but let me just work with this for now. So if I ls, you see I have currency converter over here. So which is this new repo that I just cloned from GitHub. So I can just cd into the currency converter. Okay, very good. So if you check ls, there's nothing inside, so we can start working on our application. Now, before we go any further, we are going to be needing, if you look at this document that I have over here, this what I have here, you see all these currencies that I have over here, and the fact that I can change all these ones at will, and it will give me the all this the symbol for the currency. So I have a JSON file that contains all the data for different currencies. The JSON file is what is responsible for all these currencies that I'm getting over here. I didn't write them manually. So the JSON file, you have to copy the JSON file, then just bring it into your project. So if you come to this repo, by the time you'll be watching this video, this repo won't be empty. So just come to this repo, look for the JSON file, then you either download the JSON file or you copy the contents into your project. So I have it on my end over here. This is my currencies.json file. So now that I have the currencies file, I can simply code dots so that I will open that folder in VS Code. So this is the folder live in VS Code. Yes, I trust the authors. So you can use any text editor of your choice, but I choose to go with VS Code. So the first thing we want to do, index.html, very important, please use index.html, then index.js, then I'll be using Sass, so main, yeah, let's use index.scss. Please, this is not Sass, SASS, this is SCSS. This is SCSS. So um, I like to partition my screen into two. Okay, so well, I think I'm good to go. I have the Prettier extension installed and I have my go live extension installed. So there's a way I set up my VS Code that makes my development way easier. So you can just check it out. This is the video over here. If you come to youtube.com/ at halogeneous ideas, there is a video where I explained how I set up my VS Code for. Okay, so this is it over here. This is it over here. So just check the video out. Okay, so that is that about that. I have all my files ready, so I can start writing the code. Now, the first thing you want to start with is HTML5. So the title of my document is going to be currency converter, or like I like to call it, HID converter. So for me to link my CSS, don't forget, if you understand SAS very well, or try to explain it, every time you compile your SAS, it will generate a new CSS file. For example, if I click on watch SAS, you see it has generated this new CSS file for me. The web browser will not understand this SAS file. This is what the web browser understands. So let me just link it. So um, index.css. Okay, so this is index.css. Now I will write all my SAS over here, then it will compile everything for me inside the CSS file. Okay, so we move on. I think we are done with the setup. So to come and add some few things we are going to be needing for this index.scss. So the first thing we need fonts. I like to use two particular fonts from Google Fonts. So fonts.google.com. So we are going to be needing Fira Sans and Playfair Display. Those are the two fonts that I love to use. So Playfair Display, this first one is what we are using, this first one. So just come down and look for the one with 700 bold 700. You see we have bold italics as well, but this is what we want, just bold. Okay, so the Playfair Display. Then the other one is Fira Sans. Yes, this first one over here, Fira Sans. So come down to the regular 400. So those are the two fonts we are going to be needing. Then you can decide to link it with your HTML directly, but I prefer to just use the CSS imports. So copy this and put it on top of your CSS, of your SCSS file. If I should save this, it will automatically import it inside the CSS. Take a good look at the CSS over here. So you see that it have compiled everything. So that is the first thing that we want to do. Then we want to declare our colors. So the colors that we are going to be declaring, I use this for a lot of my projects. So I have the main background. So the main background is going to be the native white, FFFFFF. Then I have the soft background. So this soft background is going to be EEF0 F2, but I'm going to be having this somewhere here. Then to my third color variable, I'm going to be having dark BG. So for this dark BG, we are going to be having DADEE, then 1. So that is going to be the dark BG. So for the text colors, we are going to be having the dark color 1B 1F24. Okay, basically I'm trying to declare variables. So you see the way we use them in SCSS. We have the main color. So for this main color, we have 411, 414141. For the soft color, we have B1, B1, B1. Okay. So the theme color, which you can decide to change to whatever you want, but I'm going to be using one color in particular as for now. Then theme color, we can have 0 B8 5 B3. Okay, so you can see that is my theme color. If you come here, you see the theme color, you can see. So that is the theme color for you. I'm going to be writing a mixin for media queries so that on smaller screens my web application will look palatable to the eyes. So at mixin, below screen, then dollar sign screen size. So screen size is the variable that the function will accept. So at media, then max width is going to be whatever the screen size that the user should give me. Okay, so then at content. Okay, so apart from that, I'm going to be writing one more mixin at mixin, then flex center. So the project that we want to work on now, it's not a very big project, but if it were a very big project, you will appreciate all these mixins that we are writing. So it reduces the amount of code CSS that you have to write manually. So display flex, justify content center, then align items center. Okay, so now for the playfair display font, at at mixin font playfair. I can just do this, or let me just use playfair. Come here and copy from, let me just copy the two because I'll be needing the second one very soon. So I can just paste the two here, just leave the other one there first. Then I'm going to be resetting the padding 0, margin 0, then the box sizing border box. Okay, then I'll come this Fira Sans, come to the body, then paste it. So I think we are good to go. If you check the index.css, you see that the padding that the reset that we did for all the elements, this is the universal selector if you remember your CSS. So then we have the body tag. So well, we are good to go now. We can start building out the application. So it's going to be a very short one. The first thing you want to start with is the outer container. If you come to, you see this outer container now, this outer container, that's the first thing we want to work on. So dot outer container. So after the outer container, we are going to be having an inner container. So dot inner container. So after this inner container, the first thing that we are going to be having is this title. Then we have the innermost container. So the inner container contains this and this, but the innermost container contains only this. So come here, we have the h1. So this h1 is going to be saying the HID converter. Okay, then they come to the next line and say, and bring in the innermost container. So dot innermost container. Okay, so for this innermost container we are going to be having the title first. P dot title. This title is going to be reading exchange rates. So let's start what we have for now. So if you want to see what this is going to look like on the screen, just come to the VS Code and go live. So currently on the one that we are working on, this is what we have at the moment. So let us start styling it. So for us to start styling it, the first thing we want to do is to style that outer container. Okay, so how do you style the outer container? Outer container. So for this outer container, I want the width to be 100%. Then I want the height to be 100 viewport height. So basically the width 100% means from the end of the screen to the other end of the screen. Then the height is the height of the screen. So that is what I want. If you look at the what we are following here, the outer container is spanning from the end of the screen to the other end, then from the height of the screen to the from top to bottom. So the next thing that we want to do, background color, is going to be the dark BG. Okay, it's going to be the dark BG. Then if you take a good look at what I have here now, you will see that the HID converter and the innermost container, both of them are in the center. So I'm going to be using flexbox, hence this flex center that I wrote here. So I can just I want it to display flex, justify content center, align item center. So just come here at include this particular mixing that you wrote here, flex center. So flex center. If I save this and you come to the index.css file, you see the outer container, display flex, justify content center, align item center. So if you come and see our own, you see this is in the middle now. So it is, and you can see the background. Take a good look at the background. You can see that the background is the same thing. So that is that about that. Then the next thing that we want to style is that this h1 that says HID converter. So how do we style the h1? So the first thing we have to style is the inner container. Actually, from outer container we style the inner container. So for the inner container, for this inner container, what do we want to happen? For the inner container, I want the width to be 85%. Okay, I want the width to be 85%. Then the maximum width is going to be 500 pixels. I'm trying to play a trick on CSS here. So the height is just to fit content. Okay, so basically the height is going to be the height of whatever it contains. That is just it. Whatever it contains, that is what is going to be the height of the innermost container. So we go to the h1 now. So for this h1, which is this one that is over here, for the h1 we can include playfair. So basically I'm including this font that I have over here, this playfair font. That's what I'm including. So after adding the playfair font, the next thing I want to do is that the font size is going to be 2 rem. Then the line height, I want to, the line height is going to be 0. Then the text align is going to be center. And I think just for precaution, the word break all, just being safe. So if I save this and I come back to my design, you can see what I have over here. HID converter. Okay, okay. Everything is still under control. So now we have the. Now let's work on the innermost container. The innermost container. So we've done the inner container. This one now the innermost container. So for the innermost container. For this innermost container, the margin top, I want the margin top to be 2 rem. Now, if you take a good look at what I have over here, you see this border top that I have over here, this border top. So let's go and create it. So the border top. So for the border top, I'm going to be having 0.5 rem solid. Then I'll bring in my theme color. So I'll bring in my theme color. The background color. The background color is going to be the main BG, which is white basically. Then the padding, I'll give it a padding of 2 rem. Save this, come back here. I'll give it a padding of 2 rem. Something is wrong somewhere. Inner container. It is not picking this one over here. No, this is supposed to be the innermost container. I'm very sorry about that. This is supposed to be the innermost container. If I save this, come here, exactly. So you can see the innermost container. So one other thing we can actually add to this is a box shadow to make it look more palatable to the eyes. Well, let's add a box shadow. So for this innermost container, or let's just leave it. Okay, so moving on, the padding will be 2 rem. So let's work on this title that I have over here, just this title. So I can just say dot title. For that title, I can say font size of 1 rem. Okay, so after having a font size of 1 rem, I want the text to align center. Since it is a paragraph, it is displaying as block automatically, so I don't have anything to worry about. It will align the text to center. If it were a span tag, so I have to display it as block manually here so that the text align center will be effective. But since it's a paragraph, I can as well just move on. Then we have the color. The color, I want it to be that soft color. That soft color. Then the margin bottom. That margin bottom, I want it to be 1 rem. So that margin bottom just be 1 rem. Now if I save this and I come back here, so you see the exchange rate, and if you come here you see the exchange rate. So now let us work on this particular this element over here. Now if you take a good look at this element is in two parts. We have the part of the symbol, then the other part is the rate itself. So how can we work on this? Very simple. Come here and we create a paragraph. Then inside the paragraph we are going to be having two span tags. So we can create a p.rate. Then this p.rate is going to be having span.symbol. So this symbol I'm just going to be giving it, or let me just use this just as a placeholder, then span dot value. Okay, so this value, let's just say 33.24. So you can see that I have rate, which is this and this. So save it, come here, then come here, you see my rate. So let us edit this rate. We should style it rather. So how do you style the rate? Very simple. You come to, so for this rate you can see that the class is rate, so that's what I'm selecting with the rate class over here. So for the rate I can say the margin top should be 1.5 rem, then the font size I want it to be very big, so that is say 4 rem. Then I want the line height to be 0, because if I don't put the line height to be 0, it will be creating a lot of space on top, which is not what I need. Then I can align the text center, so text align center. But one thing you will know is that this paragraph over here, it is containing two different elements, so I'm still going to use the flex box to make sure that both of them are horizontally aligned to the center, so vertically aligned to the center rather. So text align center, the margin bottom I want it to be 3 rem, then include the playfair font. Then after including the playfair font, let me save what I have for now. So you see, you can see what it is now. You can see what I have for now. So come here, I can just do something like display flex, then align items center. Is this self? Okay, I'm forgetting something. So align self center, then the width is going to be fit content. Then I can just say margin left auto, then margin right auto, then just for precaution word break all. Save this, come here. Okay, you see it's now in the center. So word break all. Okay, so now one thing you should know is that on this very big screen, the big screen can survive this one, but on mobile screens when you have the symbol as maybe 2 or 3 characters, then we have the exchange rate as maybe 0.00 something, you see that the word is going to be very long. So on a small screen I want to reduce the size of this particular text. So what do I want to do on a small screen? I can just say if my screen is below 460 pixels, at include screen, below screen rather. So if you come to this mixing that we wrote over here, below screen, that is what it is meant for. So I'm saying that below screen, if the screen is below 460 pixels, then what do I want to do? The font size should be 3 rem. Font size should be 3 rem. Then okay, I think that will be all. Then if the screen is below, I think I have 2 other media queries. So I think the first one is 380. So at 380 this will be 2 rem. Then at 300 this will be 1.5 rem. 1.5 rem. So if I save this, and let us check what the CSS for these 3 looks like. Let us check what the CSS for those 3, what they look like. So if you come here, you can see the way you wrote this is the original declaration. But for the media queries, when I brought the media queries, you see the query command over here, then you see the CSS inside. So you can see the CSS inside and the CSS inside. So it is one of the advantages of using SAS. With minimal effort you can do a lot. So that is that about that. Let us check if it is working. Ctrl Shift I. So if I should collapse my screen, you can see how it is getting smaller. So it is working just fine. It is working fine. So the next thing I want to do is to bring in the this input box. You see this input box that I have over here, this input box. That is the next thing I want to do. You can see that I have a label, I have the text box, label, text box. Then you see this arrow down that is here, then this background that looks a bit this straight line that is dotted. Then we have the this equivalent box over here. So let's work on it. So for the input container, close the rates. So dot input container. Okay, for this input container we are going to be having this something like we are going to be having a single input. So this single input is going to be having a label. So this label is going to be for amount. So the amount that I just typed is this amount over here, this amount over here. So now let me bring in the inputs, and the type is going to be text. You are using VS Code, you must know shortcuts. So the type is text, the name is amount, then the ID is also amount. Another thing, we have a placeholder, enter amount, enter amount, enter amount. So okay, that is that for this single one that we have over here. So now let us, you can see that this is just a single input. Now we have um, which one you want by? Ah, see how you can't make Pepsi they hungry me. You can't they do me for a year. Buy Pepsi, buy Pepsi. So as you can see, this is a single input, but we have two inputs over here. So I can use a grid container to partition this one into two. Then on smaller screens, I will make it just a single column layout, like Ctrl Shift I. If I bring this to a smaller screen, I'm just running some output on the console. You can see the way it collapses. So just so now let us bring in the grid container. So after this first single one, you bring in the grid container. So inside the grid, no, what am I doing? It's supposed to be dot grid container. Exactly. So I can just bring in this single. Okay, just single. Okay, then the next thing I want to do is to bring in another label. So label for from. So you can see that this is an input, a text input, but this one is going to be a select input where you have, if you come here, you see this type of input is different from this one. So this is just going to be a select input. So we are going to be having the selects. So the name is going to be from, and the ID is going to be from. So I can give it a class of currency selector. Currency. I think I have 3 R's. So currency selector. Okay. So this currency selector, the options, I'm just going to be giving it one option for now. So this option, the value is going to be 0, and what I have here is going to be select. Okay. So that is what I'm going to be having. Then all I have to do is to copy this particular single and paste it again. So instead of from, this is going to be to. So this should be capital letter. Okay. So after that, we are going to be having a horizontal line, then the equivalent. Then that will be the end of this input container. So we're going to be having the horizontal line, then we are going to copy this input again, but this one is going to be for the equivalent. So instead of amount, so we can just have let us do EQU, but this is going to be equivalent. Then I don't want a placeholder for this one, so I don't want a placeholder for this one, so I'll just take it out. I think that will be all for the input box. That will be all for the input box. Now this one is going to be disabled. Why would I disable this one? If you come to this guide that we are using, you can even, you're not supposed to be able to select it, but let's just leave that one out for now. So you can see that I cannot edit this one. There's nothing I can do to edit this one, but this is the one I can. If you take a good look at this our guide over here, you will see this switch currencies button and see the way it works. So basically it just switches the currencies. You see, it's a switch the currencies. So let us add this switch currency button, then we know that we are done with the user interface. Okay, so I'll close the input container, then we're going to be having the switch currencies button somewhere here. Okay, so if I save this and I come back here, you can see how unbecoming it is looking. So let's go and make it becoming. So the input container, close the rate, then let's work on the input container. So for the input container dot input container, okay, so for this input container now, I'm going to be having dot single. So dot single, I'm targeting all the individual singles there. 1, 2, then if you open this grid container, 3 and 4. That is what I'm targeting with this single one, since I'm targeting with descendants, this then single. Okay, so I can just say the margin should be 0.5 rem, then 0. So the margin top and bottom will be 0.5 rem, then left and right is going to be 0. So basically the margin top and bottom is going to be 0.5, then the margin left and the margin right is going to be 0. Okay, so for the last child, I can just do margin bottom of 2 rem. So the last child is going to be targeting this one over here. It's going to be targeting this one over here. So this equivalent is going to be targeting this one over here. So if I should save what I have at the moment, come back here. You see the spacing that it is giving it, just this one. So let us style the other ones. Now styling the label, I'm going to be having label. Then I can do something like display as block. So if I'm displaying it as block, it means that it is going to be occupying the whole of the container, the whole width of the container. So it will push the input widget to the next line. So display as block, then font size 0.85 rem. Then the margin bottom, this margin bottom is going to be 0.25 rem. Then I want the color to be soft color. I want the color to be soft color. So if I should save this and I come back here, you see the way the labels are looking. You see the way the labels are looking now. So let me start the input text. Let me start the input text. So input, then you bring your attribute selector, type is equal to text. So I want the border to be 1 pixels, no, 1 pixel solid. Then I can do for the color RGB. So I can just bring in my theme color, but I'm going to be fading it halfway, so I'll just say 0.5. Then I can say the color should be the main color. The color will be the main color, then cursor will be pointer, and the padding right. I think I'm making a mistake somewhere. So the input type text, the border is 1 pixel solid. Um, so border radius is 0. Then padding, padding top and bottom will be 0.5 rem. Padding left and right will be 1 rem. Then the color is going to be main color. Color is going to be main color. Then the font size is going to be 1.25 rem. Okay. Then we have the select. If I should save this, come back here, you see what this is looking like. See what this is looking like. Actually, before this, I'm supposed to do something. I'm supposed to bring in the inputs and the select. Should be select. So for the two of them, the width is going to be 100%. Then the outline is going to be none. So if I save this and I come back, you see the width is 100%, no outline. So if you're trying to select them, it's not going to show any outline. So for these other two ones, we are going to be having, I mean for the select now, for the select, we are going to be having a font size, say a font size of 0.85 rem. Now I'm trying to style this select element over here. I'm trying to style them. So the font size will be 0.85 rem. Then after that, after the font size, we do the padding. So this padding is going to be 0.5 rem, then 1 rem. Okay, then the next thing we want to do, background color. I want the background color to be the main BG. It's not necessary, but just for precaution. Then the border. So for the border, I'm going to be having the same thing that I did over here. For the border, I'm going to be having the same thing I did over here, but I think to reduce the amount of code that we have to write, we can just bring it here. So that will cover, so this will cover both input and select. Okay, so I don't have to write this one anymore. Then I have the color as the main color. Then the next thing I'm going to be working cursor. The cursor, I want it to be pointer. So the cursor pointer, then I can say padding right equal to 2 rem. Now the reason why I'm adding this padding right is because of this element of, you can see what I have over here, this selector over here is the reason why I'm adding padding right of 2 rem. If I should select one whose currency is very long, let me do this Czech Republic for example, you can see how it is almost overflowing inside the selector, but the padding right is what is pushing it a bit out. So padding right of 2 rem. Then I'm going to be adding a margin of 0. Okay, so box sizing, border box, then you can just say appearance none. Now if you add appearance none to it, it is going to remove this default selector that you would have, that default selector. Normally, come here, you see this arrow down that we have, this arrow down, this arrow down. So appearance none is going to remove the arrow down. So but you can see that in the one that we are using as a guide, the arrow down is there. So what can we do about it? We will be the one to create our own arrow down. So you can see that this arrow down is better than the one that we had initially here. So how can we create the arrow down? Appearance none. So the code that is going to bring this arrow down over here. So I'll just copy it and paste it over there because it's a bit complex. So this is the code over here. Border box, this and this. So this is the code over here. If I save this and I come back here, you can see it. You can see it. That arrow down, the arrow down. So that is it basically. Just you can just copy paste it from the repository. It is allowed. So then if I should close this one, if you come here, you see the grid container isn't effective unlike this one. So let's go and work on the grid container. So the grid container, I think it is outside of this single over here. So the grid container, so we display as grid, then after displaying as grid, the grid template columns is going to be repeats 2 times 1 fr, which will be 1 fr 1 fr. So and I can say the gap is 1 rem. Okay, so the gap is 1 rem. Then for the sake of smaller screens, if the screen is below 460 pixels, then what do I want to do? All I want to do is that the grid template columns should be 1 fr, just 1 column layout. Then I should be having the gap of 0. save and come back, you see the grid container is now effective. If I should collapse the screen, if I should collapse the screen, you can see one column layout. So that is that. Come back here, then let us style, I think the input container, we can close this. We are supposed to have an HR somewhere. Yes, this horizontal line. So this horizontal line, I think the horizontal line is inside the input container, so we can, it's safe to put it here. So for the horizontal line, the HR, I can do something like outline none, border none. Okay, so then I'll now come and say the margin bottom is somewhat one rem. I want to give it a very good space. Then the border bottom, the border bottom, so the border bottom is going to be 2 pixels. I want it to be dotted instead of solid. I want it to be dotted. Then RGBA theme color 0.5. So if I save this and I come back here, you see it is now dotted. It is dotted. So the whole of this is sorted out. All that we have left for the UI is just these switch currencies. So for the button, which is this one over here, this switch currencies button, it is outside of the input container, so I can just come here and do something like button. So for the button, what do I want to do? The padding top and bottom is going to be 1 rem, and the padding left and right is going to be 2 rem. I want to display it as block, okay. After displaying as block, the margin top bottom will be 0, left right is going to be auto, so that it can be in the middle. Come back here, you see it is not in the middle, so I can start doing and undoing. Margin is 0 auto. Then background color is going to be the theme color. Then the color of the text is going to be the main background color. Then the font size, I want the font size to be 1.25 rem. Then the font weight has to be bold, then border none, the cursor will be pointer, then the transition, transition is, it's not transform, transition is 0.25 seconds, then is 0.25 seconds is okay. So after this, the next thing that you want to do at include, that is on smaller screens. Now if I should save this, if I should try to shrink this, you see how it is looking on a smaller screen. I don't like it. So what can I do? I can just come here and at include, then I'll bring in my media query below screen. So I can say 400 pixels. If it is below 400 pixels, I want the font size to be 1 rem instead of 1.25 that we have here. Okay, then let me, so if it is below 325 pixels, instead of this pattern that I have over here, I will reduce the padding so it can give it more room to breathe. So this will be 0.75 and 1.5. So if I save this, and I didn't write the hover state, so hover. So for the hover state, the background color is going to be RGBA. So instead of 0.5, I think I'll just have 0.9, so don't fade it too much. Come here and you see, you can see you can see it. So if I should collapse my screen, you can see the change in the font size, in the padding. So you can see the change in the font size and the padding. Okay, so that is it. Well, I think we are done with the UI. I think we are done with the UI. So we can start working on the JavaScript side, which is arguably the sweetest part. So now, if you remember when we started, I said you should this currency.json file. So I can bring my JS here. Bring my JS here. Okay. So this index of CSS. This is all the CSS that we wrote. This is all the CSS apart from this one that we smuggled in. So close this one. Then the currencies.json. So you can see all the currencies available here. This is a list of so many currencies. So you can see the TOP, the Turkish lira, the Trinidad and Tobago dollar, the new Taiwan dollar, the Tanzanian shilling, the Ukrainian, I can't pronounce this, so USH, Ugandan shilling, and all that. So that is, those are the currencies that we have. So the first thing that we want to do is to import these currencies into our JavaScript. Then from there, we are going to start populating this select over here. You see what, like what I have here? You can see this one. So I want to, so come here, you can see what we have is just that select option only. So come here, and how do you import the JSON file data? Now, basically, the way I want you to see it is that you are just exporting this data. You are just exporting this data. So you can do something like, don't forget that you have to include your script tag just at the end of the body tag over here. So script, and the script you want to include is a module. Now the reason why you have to include it as a module is because you want to import this currencies.json file. So the type must be, it must be a module. Then the source index.js. So save this and you come back here. So for us to import those currencies, very simple. You can just say import data from currencies.json. Okay. Then after importing the data, you have to assert that the data that you are bringing in, the type of the data is JSON. So this is how you can import it. Then the next thing you do, you can do something like const currencies equal to the data that you just imported. Now console the log the currencies. Okay. So if I save this and I come back here, you see all the currencies that we have in that JSON file. These are the currencies over here. These are the currencies over here. These are the currencies. Okay. So the first thing that we want to do is to populate our these two select inputs with these currencies that we have. Very simple to do. Okay, before we do that, let us select all the elements of interest that we have here. All the elements of interest. So the first one that we are going to be selecting, we are going to be selecting the selectors. the selectors are basically, if you come to this grid container over here, this is a currency selector and this another currency selector. So the two of them, I'm selecting them together. So how do you select them together? You can just say let's can say let's selectors. I don't know if JavaScript is going to be confused about this my variable name, so I'll put underscore equal to document dot query selector all. Now the reason why I'm using query selector all is because I want to select all the elements with the class of query selector, with the class of currency selector. So if I don't put it that way, it will select the first one that it sees that matches the selection. So now currency selector, that is sorted out. The next one that we are going to be selecting, the rate element. Now if you come up here, this rate element over here, but it is this value that we are concerned about for this particular one. So let the rate element be equal to document dot query selector dot value. So that is this rate element over here. Then the third one that we are going to be working on, we are going to be selecting the from selector and the to selector. Now this query selector is selecting the from selector and the to selector, but I want to select them individually now, so I can just do something like let the from selector be equal to document dot query selector. Okay, so this query selector now, document dot query selector, I can just use the id from. Don't forget we have an id over here. The id is from, but this other one the id is to. So I can just copy this one, copy, then paste it to selector. So both of them are selected. Now we have the amount selector. If you come here, this amount selector over here, this amount element rather. So what is the class? The amount element, where is the amount element? I think it's this one. Yes, this is it. The id is amount, so I can just let the amount equal to document dot query selector. So the query selector amount, okay, id of amount, then the symbol element. If you come up here, this is the symbol over here, this symbol element. So I can just copy, then symbol, I can just add symbol elements, symbol element. So we also have the button element. If you come down, this button over here, so that button, let me use this one. Okay, for this other one, the symbol is a class, so this should be giving us issues. So the symbol is a class, so this is button, but this is just an item. So then after the button, I think the last one is the equivalent. Let the eq element equal to the document dot query selector, and the query selector is selecting the element with the class with the id of equ. This is the id of equ. So that is selected. Let's just cross check to be sure. Okay, I think we are done selecting all we want. Now we can populate the currencies. So how do we populate the currencies. Very simple. If I save this, I've not done anything special. What I've done so far is just to import data. Then after importing the data, I selected my elements of interest from the web page. Okay. After this one, now populating the selectors with the currencies. Okay. So I can do something like const populate currencies is going to be a function that is going to be accepting the parent element. Then that, if you take a good look at what we have over here, this select is going to be the parent element. The options that we want to add is the child element of this so if I can select this parent element, I can just add all the options underneath. So come here, the parent is an arrow function. So I can say let's build string equal to an empty string. So this empty string is what is going to be having all the options. Then I'll now say, if you take a good look at these currencies now, you will see that we have different data inside. This is the data for currency. You can see that we have different elements inside. So basically, I want to iterate all these elements, and for each of the elements, you create an option for the select element. So how do I do that? Come here. This is build string. You can now say for const format in currencies. So basically, this currencies over here, I want to iterate all the keys. The currencies is an object. It's a JavaScript object. So if you are coming from a Python background, you say dictionaries. So you can see the keys over here, this format. So for every format, USD, CAD, EUR, Euro, then the Dirham, AFN, for each and every one of them, what do I want to happen? So that is this const format in currencies. I'm selecting each and every one of them. Then I will now say let single equal to currencies indexing formats. Now this single that I have over here, this line that I have over here now, basically what it's going to be doing is that this single is going to be taking an instance of the whole of this, or an instance of the whole of this, or an instance of the whole of this. So let us console.log single. Okay. So if I should save this and I come back here, I'm having, okay, I've not called populate currencies. So let me just copy. Okay. So you can see each and every currency over here. For example, this one. So this is a single format. This is another single one. Then this is another single one. So come back here. Don't log it to the console anymore. What I want to do is that I can just say let's, I'll declare a temporary variable. I'll now say this temp equal to, let me bring this option that I have over here. So a template string, then I'll bring in the option. So for this template string, what do I want to do? This value is going to be, don't forget, I can bring in this dollar over here. Then I can say single is going to be indexing code. So this code that I want to index is like this code over here. It is present in every element that we have there. So single code, then for what is going to be displayed, and can be having this one, single code, then pipe, then I can just say, if you come here, you will see this name. Yes, this name over here, this name. So come here, then name. So basically that is it. Then the next thing I want to do is this, whatever you have as the option now, add it to this build string that we have. So I can just say build string plus equal to temp. Okay, so when you are done, when the whole of this is done executing, then I'm going to say parent, which is the parent element that I got from here, parent dot inner html, inner html, then I'll now say plus or equal to build string. So just for security purposes, just to take precaution, build string equal to an empty string. Okay, so now take a good look at what I have here. Let's build string equal to this empty string. Now for const format in currencies, let the single one, I will extract the single currency, then let temp, then I'll build this particular option that I have over here. I'll create an option out of that particular currency. Then after creating the option, I will add it to this build string. Then when I'm done adding it to the build string, when I'm done adding all the elements, all the currencies to the build string, I'll now add it to that parent element. But I will not be removing this one that I have there. I will just be appending to it. That is why I'm using this plus equal to. I'm just appending to it. So for this populate currencies now, I've not supplied any parent element. So what parent element am I going to be supplying? Very simple. If you come and see these selectors that I have over here, it is because of the selectors that I want to add. The selectors is what I'm going to be using as the parent element basically. So I can just say um, selectors dot for each, then I'll do something like for each element. Let me use elements, then I'll come up with an arrow function, then I'll say populate currencies. So that particular element, bring it here, and we are good to go. Come back here, and you can see all the options, they are working fine. If I select this one, I can select this one, I can select anyone I want. So, and that is all about populating all these the select items HTML elements with all the currencies that we have. So the next thing that we want to do now is to let us create a get rate function. So the get rate function, I can do something like const get rate. So this get rate now, it's not going to be accepting anything, although it's going to be an asynchronous function. So but for now let's just say console.log fetching data. Let's just leave it like this, console.log fetching data. So now this get rate, we'll skip it a bit, we'll come back to do it. Then if you notice very well, on these other ones that we were working with initially, if you change this one, you can see that this is changed. If you change this, you can see it has changed this one. So let us go and work on it. So basically this is what we are going to be changing. Every time you change these two selector, it will affect this one. So to change the currency icon, I'm going to be writing a function const, I'll say const change currency icon. So I can just say to accept the event object arrow function, then come here, So you can do something like let's format equal to selector dot value. Now, if you take a good look at what I have over here, all these options, they have their individual values. And if you recall the JavaScript that we wrote here, the value is going to be the code. The value is going to be the code. So basically, every time you select an option over here, it will give me this code. Then I will use this code. I will put this code inside the currencies object that I have. Then it will give me the whole currencies for that data. So basically, after getting the data for the currency rather, then I'll just look for this symbol native over here. Then I'll add the symbol native to that particular element. How do you do it? Come here, format equals to selector dot value. Then you now say the symbol element dot inner text. So the inner text will be equal to, if you remember very well, this is the symbol element over here. It is a span tag, not a paragraph tag. A span tag, not a paragraph element. So obviously, it is inner text that you're going to be using, not inner HTML. So symbol dot inner text is going to be the currencies. No, 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 no. It's going to be currencies. Then these currencies, it is going to be indexing the format that the user selected. So whatever format the user selected here, so it's going to be the value over here. So I can just say format. Now, after bringing in the format, it is going to be giving me an individual currency like this. But what I'm interested in is just this symbol native. So copy the symbol native, then that is it. Then after getting the symbol native, you can just come and get rate. So every time you change the to selector, it will change the symbol first, then it will go and fetch the rate. Save it and come back here. So every time I change this one, it is supposed to be changing. Something is wrong somewhere. Okay, I've not added this to any I've not added this to any element. So now let me go and add it to an element. So I can just say to selector dot add event listener. So this event listener is going to be triggered on change. So basically every time you select it and you change the new value, it will trigger this particular event listener, and the function is just going to be change currency icon. So come back here, then select. You can see the way it is. So the reason why it is showing fetching data is because of that get rate. Don't forget, you can see it is the data service provider that will be giving us this rate over here. Just you can see the symbol, different symbols. So that is that about that. So now another event listener that we are going to be creating is for this from selector. Every time you select the from, I want the from selector to also trigger the get rate. So I can come here and say the from selector also dot add event listener on change. So what do? You go and get rates. Okay, so the from okay. So another thing that we have to ensure is that if you take a good look at this guide that we are using, you cannot enter a word in this place. You cannot enter a word. You cannot enter anything that is not originally a number. So you can't even have a number with two periods. So let us go and ensure it in our program. So basically, I can come here and write a function and call the function is number or float. So or I can just say is NaN, is NaN. So I can say const is NaN. Then this is going to be an arrow function that will accept a number. Then I can come here. I wrote it somewhere because I cannot be writing it from my head. So I wrote it here. Okay, this is it over here. This is just all we have to do to check if it is a number. So come here. Okay, so this is my function that we check to ensure that whatever is going into that particular amount box is a number. So I'll now come and do a check. I can just say amount dot add event listener. Then I will now say the input. Every time you input a value, so you are going to trigger an arrow function. So after triggering the arrow function, if is none, is none, okay, then I'm going to be supplying amount dot value. Amount dot value basically is going to be whatever the user enters here. That's what is going to be amount dot value. So this amount dot value, just say amount. So I'm supposed to add something here. So if it is not a word, amount dot value will be equal to amount dot value dot slice. So after slicing, just say 0 comma -1. Now this line of code, what this line of code is going to do is that every time you enter something that is not going to make it a word, it will automatically remove the character that you entered. So I'm trying to press the F character that I have over here. I've not saved it. You see the way the F is going in smoothly. But if I come here and I save my JavaScript, if I save my JavaScript and I come back here, you see F cannot go in anymore. I cannot enter anything that is not originally a number. If it is not a number, nothing is going on. If it is not a number, and I can even say 665 dot maybe 72. I cannot add another period. I cannot add another period. So that is it basically. So that is the work of this is none over here. But after you've done this check, if this check is true, what I want you to do is to return. So return basically means that you will break out of the function. Well, not really break out, but you just exit the function. So then you come and get rate. Get rate is becoming the popular kid in the block. Okay. So if I save this and you see anytime that I enter a valid number, it is going to be it will try to get the rate. But anytime I want to enter an alphabet, if I want to enter an alphabet, you can see even a single period will not enter. So an alphabet cannot enter, only a number can enter. You can see that every time I enter a number, this keeps increasing to show that it is going to fetch the data. So after that, the last function, the last element that we are going to be working on before going to configure the get rate is this button over here that switches the currencies. Come here, you see it switches the currencies. You see the way it's switching the currency. So you see the way it's switching the currency. So I think there is a bug somewhere here. There is a bug somewhere here. So this is Chinese yuan. If I switch the currencies, this is supposed to switch as well to Burundian dollar. So we will fix that in our own code. We will fix that in our code. Okay. So where is the, okay, this is the get rate over here. Very good. So come here and btn elements. I thought I selected it. Okay, I just said button. Well, button is not bad. So button. So for button dot add event listener. So I can just declick events. So when somebody clicks it, come and execute this arrow function. So um, now there are so many ways to swap this value. You can see this and this. There are so many ways to do the swap. But like if I have this and this, if I click on this, I want it to swap the two of them. Now, one way to do it is to use a temp. Is to use a temp. For example, if I want to swap two numbers, let's say let x equal to 3 and let y equal to 4. If I want to swap the two of them, I can create another variable, say let z equal to maybe whatever is the value of x. Then I will now say x equal to y. Then I will now say y equal to z. So this is one way to swap the values of x and y. But the there is something called destructuring assignment. So destructuring assignment is what I'll be using. So how does destructuring assignment work? Very simple. Just come here and say x comma y equal to y comma x. If you know tuple unpacking in Python, it is almost what is happening here. So they call it destructuring assignment. So that is what I'm going to be using, and it is very simple, very simple. So I can just do something like I'll come with this. I'll now say from selector dot value comma to selector dot value. Okay, I will now say equal to, open this, to selector dot value comma from selector dot value, and that is it. So but don't forget that we have to change exactly. So to selector dot value, the to selector dot value, this. So to change currency icon, so basically I can just change currency icon. Let me just copy change currency icon. So so after switching the two values, you are going to be changing the currency icon, and after changing the currency icon you will get the rate. So this is it. Save this. If I come here and I select Burundian franc for example, and this is maybe Bezier dollar, then switch currencies, you see, if I switch the currencies back, the the symbol switches as well. But in the case of what I did initially, if you switch the currencies back, it will not switch this one. It will not switch this one, which is not good. But I think it is fixed here. It is fixed here. So now that okay, I think we are almost done. So let us go and write the get rate function. So the get rate function, this is the get rate function over here. Yes, this get rate function. Now, the first thing that we're going to be doing is that we're going to be getting the API. We're going to be getting the API, okay? So the API that we are going to be using, like I said, is fixer.io. So basically, I'm going to be getting the, I can just say, let the API key equal to this, then let the URL of the API basically equal to a template string, because I still have to inject the API key. So come to, this is fixer.io, right? So let us go to tempmail.org. I want to go and get a dump email like I used to just show you. I would advise you to please do this with your an actual email, because I will not have access to this email ever again. So come here, and if you come to the documentation, you should see the, if you come to the documentation, okay, this is it, this is all we need. So come here, um, then okay, very good. So I can just come here, and this will be API key, then okay, so that is it. I just have to go and copy my API key and I'm good to go. So temp mail, copy this, no, I should be not, um, fixer.io, create account to sign up for the free plan. Then this is the email, and this is the password. Then the first name I can say hello genius, then last name ideas. So enter your address, then I can just say number 7. Oh god, forgive us for all the lies we've had to tell. Number 7, somewhere in maybe New York City, somewhere in New York. The postal code, let me just enter something, then choose the country. Okay, let us choose the correct country, Nigeria. So select the state, um, Lagos. So for the city, I already said somewhere, don't stress me. Okay, so I don't need to add all these other ones, these are the ones that are compulsory. Like I said, it's better you do this with an actual email. So I'm not a robot, obviously. Then sign up. So no thanks. Okay, so no, I don't want. So visit the dashboard. So this is my API key. This is my API key. So you can see the API usage, and you can make a call to the API 1,000 times every month as a free user. So okay, so come here. No, cancel. Copy this. Then come here and paste the API key. So you can see the API key. I've injected my API key inside this, so I can start working on what I want to work on. So, but before I make a call to the API, before I make a call to the API, I have to do a check. The first check, I'll say if this from selector dot value equal to 0, or to selector dot value equal to 0, or or amount dot value, but let me just put not here. Okay, so if any of these things, you can see that I'm using or, so these three have to be true. If they are true, then I don't want to run anything, just return, just return. So I can do something like console.log not fetching. Okay, not fetching. So if I should save this, come here, so Okay, so now if I should do something like 55, you can see not fetching because these other ones, they are amounting to false. The value will be 0. So if I should select this one, it is still not going to fetch. But if I should come here and select a value here, my device is misbehaving. Okay, you can see I selected a value here, so it is not showing not fetching anymore. Let me say console.log fetching. Save this. So it is either it fetches or it doesn't fetch. So now it have reloaded everything. I can come here and say maybe 423, 432, this, and you see it is not going to fetch because I have the amount, I have the from, and I have the to. If I don't have one of these three, it is not going to fetch. If I should change this one back to select, then you see it's not going to fetch anything. Okay, I have to do a check. I have to do a check. I have to do another check under. This is where the check is going to happen under the change currency icon. So now if, okay, if not format, or let me say if format equal to 0, or let me use 0, then just return, don't do anything. So save this and come back here. We're supposed to reload. Okay, so come here. If I should change this one to a value, you see it changes the Burundian dollar. You see it changes it, but if I change it back to, my device is misbehaving, you see it is not going to change anything. So now we can move on to our get rates. Okay, so this is the get rate. Okay, so the next thing I want to do now is to make a call to the API. So now this is supposed to be an asynchronous function. So get rate equal to async. Okay, so I'll come here and await. What I want to await now is the fetch, then the URL. I don't have to add the method because by default it is going to be giving me the get method. So dot, then whatever you get from the API, which is the result, convert it to result.json. So basically convert it to the JSON format, then dots, then whatever you have as the result, whatever you have as the result, so console.log results. So if I save this and I come back here, let me say 567, the from is not fetching, but if I come here and I change it, it is going to, you can see the fetch over here. Access restricted, access restricted. Why is the access restricted? So the reason why it was telling us that the access is restricted is because we are on a free plan, and on the free plan you cannot make HTTPS requests. So you can see this thing that we have over here is HTTPS, but because we are on free, we are using the free version, we can only make HTTP requests. Okay, so that HTTP request, come here, all you have to do is just to change this one to HTTP. If you save this and you come back to the other browser, yes, so enter maybe 788 come here, maybe USD, and you want to convert this to maybe Israeli new shekel, then you should be loading the rates already. My network is bad. Okay, you can see now it is telling us that the base currency is in euro. So another thing that you can do if you had the premium version is that you can change the base currency to maybe USD. One thing you can do is to whatever it is that the user enters here can be used as the base currency. Then you set it in such a way that the only rate that is going to be returned is for just whatsoever you enter here. But because we are on the free plan again, you can't do all that, so we have to work our way around it. So to do it, it's very easy. So now if you notice the other time when it was giving us errors, this rate key wasn't there initially. This rate key isn't part of the JSON response that we are getting. So I can come here, and for security purposes I will now say if I'll now say not, then I'll now say rates in result. So if the result that the user is sending me, if rate is not contained in that result, then just return. So but before you return, I want you to this equivalent box over here, which is the output box. So you can just eq element dot value should be equal to error fetching data. Okay, error fetching data. So that is one. The second thing that we are going to be doing is to calculate the value of the rate. So for you to calculate the value of the rate is very simple. So while I was writing this part initially, I had to pick a pen and a paper to do a bit of numerical analysis. But for you to calculate the rate value, it's very simple. All you have to just do is say let rate value be equal to the result that you are getting, which is this result that we converted to JSON over here. This result that we output over here. So result, then we slot in the rate. You just say result, then you now say rates. Okay, then we will now say to selector dot value. Then we will divide this by the from selector value. So that will give you the rate straight away. So we have to do another check. We can say if not rate value, that is if this rate value is giving you a value that is not that is not a valid number. So you can also come here and say error getting rates. You can just say error getting rates. So you can just add this to it, error getting rates. So now let us do a bit of console.log, then rate value. Okay, so let's just do this rate value. So come here, the amount that we want to search for, let's say 789, then come here Brazilian real, then come here, we want to convert it to maybe Hong Kong dollar. So you can see the rate over here. So if we want to convert from Brazilian real to maybe Guinean franc, you can see the Guinean franc, and you can see the exchange rate. So if you want to convert from maybe USD to, you can just change in this one. It gave me the exchange rate from USD to the Guinea franc. If I want to convert to Nigerian naira, I can just come and look for ngn. This is ngn over here. So according to, what is their name again, according to fixer.io, they are telling us that the exchange rate is 806.5. It is well. So we move on. So moving on now, since we now have our rate value, since we have the rate value, what is the next thing to do? We can start populating the data, like writing the output. So output now. So the first thing we want to do is to, now if you take a good look at what I have over here, you see that this value over here is 1.59. This value is 1766.713 whatsoever. You can see that the value is too long. It's too long. It's too long. So I'm going to be doing a bit of treating the value so that the value won't be taking the whole width. If I should collapse this, you can see that the font size is getting smaller. I don't want at some point it should just span through. So I might just reduce it to 4 decimal places at some point, 3 decimal places, 2 decimal places, like that. So for the output, I'll now say the rate value if the rate value is greater than 10, what do I want to do? I can just say the rate element, which is this rate element over here. Where's the rate element? The rate element dot value, this one over here. So that rate element, I can just say rate element dot inner text. The inner text is going to be equal to that rate value dot to fixed, that is decimal places. I can just say 2 decimal places. That is if it is greater than 10. Okay, so um else, if the rate value is greater than 100, I want it to show the output to just 1 decimal place. One decimal place. So else, I can just say okay, actually, okay, let me do it this way. So if the rate value is less than 10, let me start from ground up. I think it will give me a lot more sanity like that. So let this one be in, say, 3 decimal places, or maybe 4 decimal places, just to give it some level of. So now if I can say else, if the rate value, let me copy this one. If the rate value is greater than 10, then to 2 decimal places. Then else, if the rate value, well, let me just write it out, I'm being lazy. If the rate value is greater than 100, then rate value, no, it should be rate element dot inner text will be equal to the rate value dot to fixed, so just 1. Okay, just that 1 decimal place. So another thing I can do actually is to remove this thing. I don't need it. I don't need it. So I can do away with this now. Okay. So if the rate value is less than 10, then the rate element is going to be displayed at 4 decimal places. If the rate value is greater than 10, it is going to be displayed at 2 decimal places. Okay, or let me make this to be 3 decimal places. Let me make this one to be 2 decimal places. So let me bring this back. So this will be 100, but then I'll now say else, that is if rate is greater than 100. Okay, I actually have to add this. If the rate is greater than 1000, then 1000, let it be to 1 decimal place. Okay, this can be tricky at times. This can be tricky at times, but you'll get used to it with time. So now that I've shown that as an output, so I can just say something like let a temporary variable be equal to the amount dot value. Then I will now multiply this by the rate value. Okay, so this rate value now, I will now say eq element dot value will be equal to the temporary variable that I created dot to fixed, just 2 decimal places. Save this, and so this is going to work on the rate value, while this is going to work on the equivalent part. So basically this is the equivalent, then this is the rate value. So let us do something. Come here and say maybe 45 to change it from this Australian dollar to maybe Burundian franc. So you can see the exchange rate 851.1851.508. This is quite large. Okay, so you see the reason why we have to be reducing the size. So that is it. So you can see the equivalent over here. You can see the equivalent over here. So this is the equivalent. If it is less than 10 to fixed 4 decimal places, what of USD to Nigerian Naira? .504. Something is wrong somewhere, and this is where something is wrong. So okay, let me go from down up. If the rate value if the rate value that I calculated is greater than 1000, I think this is the correct way to do it. Then okay, else if my rate value is greater than 100, what do I want you to do? Rate value, no, this should be, let me just copy this one. Okay, this should be to 2 decimal places. Then else if again the rate value, if the rate value is more than 10, rate, so this should be to 3 decimal places, else then to 4 decimal places. So let me comment these ones out, then save it. come back here. Amount is 652 from say US dollars to, okay, I think it is working fine now. So since it is less than 10 4 decimal places, let's change to euro. It is also less than 10 4 decimal places, but Moroccan dirham, so I think it's greater than 10, so 3 decimal places. Let me look for Lebanese pound. Okay, you can see. So because it is greater than 1000, so it will be in 1 decimal place. So I think that solves it. So, well, I think that will be the end of the JavaScript. So we've successfully built out the app. So the next thing to do is just to upload the app to GitHub, just to push it to GitHub. So this is the currency converter repo that we created. So all we have to do is just okay, we have to create a readme file that will describe the repository. So readme.md. So you can just say currency converter application. Okay, so this is a tutorial. I'm sure you have to write something different here. Hosted on Halogeneous Ideas, teaching how to create a currency converter. Okay, web application. So save this and we are good to go. So you can just say git add all, git commit minus m. You can, so I cleared my terminal. So git commit minus m, then first push git push. Okay, so come here, and if you reload this, you can see how it is working. Although there is something we forgot to do, these default values that we have here, I'll just rather do this like this and this like this. Okay, so if I save this, I'll be getting, you can see what I'll be getting, just this. I don't want to add any value to it. So let me come back here and git add all again, git commit minus m, changed rate and symbol. Okay, git push. Okay, so I have pushed it. Come here, and if you come to, no, it should be index.html. If you come to index.html, you come to index.html, yes. So okay, you can see the both values here, this and this. Okay, so so that is basically how you can push your code to GitHub. Like I said, it's better you use the access token. So the reason why I can push easily like that is because I used the access token. Okay, so I believe that you can easily deploy your site using GitHub pages. If you come to settings, you go to pages, then I think I deployed mine. I posted the video and I deployed mine like 7 minutes ago. So all you have to do is just to change this to the main. By default it will be on none. Change it to main then you save it. If you save it, you will get a link like this, but the link will not be working. The reason is because you are loading the request over HTTPS, but the API you are using is an HTTP. It's having an HTTP over here. So if it were HTTPS, it will work just fine. And you know that we are on a free plan. So if you can consider paying for if you won't mind paying for the API, so you'll be able to host the API. So you can decide to host with Netlify or with GitHub. Anyone, both of them will work just fine. So if you try to open it, I mean the if you try to, you cannot launch an API request over HTTP while you are loaded on. You cannot launch the API request over HTTP. So well, that will be all for the tutorial. Thank you for staying till the end. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Drop your comments. We would love to hear them. So thank you very much. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.